All righty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is April 10th, Wednesday, 2024. We're just coming 2 days off of a total eclipse that still has everybody crazy. I am the maestro, Jeremy Karp, and of course, alongside me is the one, the only Ryan K. Bowman of Interstate 70 Sports Media and Heavy.com. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
Jeremy, I have been busy as like crazy, but I'm never too busy to talk to you, my friend. It's always a pleasure. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing all right. Thank you so much. And folks, be sure to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and or X, and on YouTube. You can also follow Roundabout Sports on Facebook, but you can follow both Ryan and myself on social media as well. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, and everywhere else you stream. So there is a lot going on. So the first thing I wanted to talk about yesterday, April 9th, Sonny Gray made his first start as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals during the regular season. He, and he was on a 65 pitch count limit, but he was really stellar in my opinion. I mean, and he strained his right hamstring in spring training, so he was scheduled to be the guy that would make that opening day start for St. Louis. Obviously, that wasn't to be. So, yeah, I have to say though, I mean, he went 5 innings, allowed 5 hits, no runs, no walks, struck out 5. I think, 43 strikes on 64 pitches is a pretty good performance.
Very efficient through 5. I mean, that's normally that would be the kind of start that would get him through 7 and a quality start. I think he is the ace. I mean, let's face it, they kind of anointed him the ace during the offseason. And he can be that provided he stays healthy. You mentioned the hamstring. This is this would be now in his career the 4th time he's gone on the disabled list for the same type of injury. So it's safe to say it's a chronic problem. So you're just hoping that he just stays established. And hey, if they have to keep him on a lower pitch count, if they have to lower his workload, so that you have him fresh later in the season, or you want to make sure that you kind of nurse that injury along, I'm fine with that.
Right. And, I also want to credit the bullpen yesterday because Matthew Liberatore, Andrew Kittredge, and JoJo Romero all pitched shutout innings, as did Ryan Helsley. Went out there, got him the save that he needed to. Yeah, I think it is fantastic that, and this was Helsley's 4th save and his 7th appearance in 12 games total for the Cardinals so far this year. So it was nice to see him start to really get into a groove of things. Overall, Cardinals won 3-0. First time shutting out the Phillies since 2019. They lost 4-3 today to Philadelphia, but they've started to show more bright things for things to come.
Well, you mentioned Helsley, and he's been an all-star before, but I don't know what you think. He's never in my mind felt like that shutdown guy. He's never felt like he's that elite closer. So if he's taking steps towards, making it to that level, again, great. I think that he fits the bill here in St. Louis, but you wouldn't list him as one of the top guys in Major League Baseball. Not right now, but, a good season, a dominant season out of him. I mean, we've seen guys develop in that role. So I think that, I have confidence, really a lot more confidence in the pitching staff than a lot of others do. But I look at it like this, and a lot of people I've seen early on, we're 12 games into the season and people already, throwing a fit. Well, we kind of went into this year thinking this was a 500 ball club, and that's what clip they're playing on right now. Now, if they exceed those expectations, that probably won't happen till later in the year. If they reach the All-Star break at 500, I think that, you're a success, especially in the NL Central.
In the NL Central right now, I mean, it's kind of interesting because based off what we were saying a couple weeks ago, it's kind of the opposite of what we were expecting. Right now, The Pittsburgh Pirates are 9-3. It's their best start in almost 40 years. Brewers are 7-3. Cubs are 7-4. Reds 6-5. And right now, as of 7 o'clock Central on April 10th, the Cardinals are 6-7 and in last place. And they are.
I said we were 12 games through the season, 13 games into the year. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
was
was thinking
say,
about going into
some
today.
Some teams have only played 10 games, let alone others. But yeah, no, it's interesting how everything goes along. I look at the offense of the Cardinals as well. Young guys are shining. Specifically, Nolan Gorman, Victor Scott II,
Mason Wynn hitting
Mason
333.
Wynn, and Jordan Walker. I think the young guys that were hyping up for the future are really coming through early on, and it's a welcoming sight to see.
Yeah, I think that the farm system has been fantastic. As a matter of fact, it's odd to think of all the talent they've given away basically over the last few years, and to still have the cupboard be this full. And there's still a lot of intriguing prospects, especially pitchers, down in the minors right now. But I think at the end you're going to get what was advertised with Mason Wynn and with Walker. I think Gorman is going to establish power this year. I think we're going to see him finally step up as that guy, that force in the middle of the lineup. And the only, to me, the biggest question mark, and we haven't really seen him yet, is, you wonder if this is going to be the year too that Lars Nootbaar finally puts it together. We've talked, he's kind of a guy that I think people have been expecting to, break out eventually and have a big year. And it seemed like this might be the year. And of course he had the injury in spring training right out of the gate. So we haven't seen anything out of him yet.
Right. Excuse me. How do you think that through the first, dozen or so games of the season, Ollie's looking, managing the team?
I feel like Ollie is Ollie. I don't think he moves the needle one way. I don't really believe that he loses games, because that's the biggest issue I have with him. I think he manages not to lose. He doesn't manage to win, in my mind, at least. Again, I think he's about a 500 manager. To me, this is a 500 ball club, and he's a 500 type manager at the major league level. Until he convinces me otherwise, I feel like he won with the old manager's players basically in his first season, and also a whole lot of pixie dust and magic that went into that year because of Albert and Yachty and all the all the kind of nostalgia that went into it. But then reality set in last year, and it could very well set in again this year. And I think that if he pulls it off and they win 84, 85 games or more, definitely he's staying. He's got to stay. But if they end up anywhere near where they were last year, I think this is his last year in St. Louis. Despite the contract extension, that's nothing to a ball club. Like, we say that in the NFL all the time, where coaches sign these ridiculous contracts and they still get paid, after they get fired. For the Cardinals, it would be nothing for them to eat that money if they had to. If it turns into like a seriously, and no pun intended, code red situation.
Right. No, and I definitely like that. Like I said, it was a rough series against the Dodgers. They did much better against the Padres. Mixed bag against the Phillies. Marlins, there was a lot of good things. Now they're heading to Arizona to face the defending pennant-winning Arizona Diamondbacks. It'll be a reunion for Paul Goldschmidt, if you will. And I definitely want your thoughts on what's going on with Paul Goldschmidt. You actually had something come up sent my way recently in regards to some words that Paul Goldschmidt was saying.
Oh, yeah. I just did a story at Heavy this morning regarding Paul Goldschmidt's comments he had about Mason Wynn and how he thought that Mason Wynn is a surefire Gold Glover. I have to agree with that. He said he believes he'll win multiple Gold Gloves in his career. So that's high praise coming from a guy who was the National League MVP a couple years ago. You know, and anytime that you see, you know, Mason Wynn walked into the season, you know, and some people could make the argument he was kind of handed the keys, you know, this very first year as a rookie, but he's earned the respect of the veterans and of manager Ali Marmal too. So, you know, I think he's a guy. He's obviously, as you mentioned, one of those young building blocks from the future where you can say we can pencil this guy in at shortstop for the next decade, and we know what we got.
What do you think about Goldschmidt? As far as speaking of Paul Goldschmidt, he's had a rough start. Is in the field. He's been doing great at first base. Always has. Been a slow start at the plate. What do you think? I mean, age, just a slow start, something he's like. What is it to you from your perspective that's leading Paul Goldschmidt? I mean, at one point he went on a 4 for 34 slump, like in 38 at bats.
Well, he's had other seasons in the past where he's gotten off to slow starts and he's been able to right the ship. I will say this, though. I think based on the fact that there is a desire to eventually make Jordan Walker an infielder, you know, a first baseman, I think this might be Goldie's last year in St. Louis. I believe it isn't this his walk year this year? I'm not sure. Or it might be a mutual option. I'm not sure exactly what his contract status is, but I think it's up at the end of the year. And I believe that you know, they might channel that money elsewhere and just make the move to put Walker at first. It won't be a popular move because people love Goldschmidt, but we're starting to see that decline in skills a little bit. You know, the idea of handing him another 4-year big money contract, you know, or 5 years or whatever he's going to want. When you've got a guy in the outfield that honestly, legitimately should be your first baseman, you know, and he should be focusing mainly on being a hitter as opposed to chasing down fly balls, then I make the move to let Goldie walk and or, you know, make a trade or something at the deadline this year if you're out of it and make that conversion now to move Walker to first base. You're going to put a lot more miles on Walker, a lot more longevity on his career, and a lot less chance of injury. And right now he's the crown jewel of your organization. So it makes perfect sense. I hate to be the one to say that because I love Goldschmidt and I love watching him play, you know, right there for the Cardinals, you know, but you know, he's just one of those players you have to respect. You have to admire him by the way he goes about his business and the numbers he puts up. But I just think from a business standpoint, they'll move on after this season.
I still stand by. I feel they're going to do something to where in the next, it'll be probably a 2-year contract. They're going to re-sign him to enough money that would want to keep him around, enough incentives that would want to keep him around. He loves playing in St. Louis, loves the fans, and I think he will retire as a St. Louis Cardinal.
That's my hope.
That now, I also do think the results of this season are going to be major, and it's kind of like speaking the obvious, but I think it's a major talking point is depending on how the Cardinals do. Obviously, and we're about to get into this, you know, there's a lot of things that have started this year that is a ripple effect from them losing 91 games last year. And I think the future of some guys, such as Paul Goldschmidt with the team, are an effect of that. You know, if you have another 90-loss season, obviously, you know, you're thinking to yourself, maybe go somewhere else where there's a bigger contender. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. I feel they're gonna want to keep Goldschmidt around 2 more years, provide that extra boost. Him and Arenado provide that extra veteran leadership for the young guys in the locker room.
I would bet Arenado. I would bet Nolan Arenado finishes his career as a Cardinal just because
Arenado will finish as a Cardinal. You know, I don't see him going anywhere else.
But I don't know about Goldie. If I had to pick between those two, I'd say Nolan's the more likely guy that's going to.
I do agree with that.
Because of the age difference. He's at a time. He'll be the time when he renews his contract that he'll still have those, you know, a little bit of that those prime years left. So he'll be able to command that money and justify that money. I don't know if, you know, at his age, you can justify handing, depending if he takes a 2-year deal and the money's right, then obviously you'd want to keep a player like that, even just for the leadership factor. But I would think that they're going to look at. It's pretty clear they're going young, and I kind of like it. I like the youth movement because you're going to see a lot of big contracts start to come off the books in the next couple of years. Why not? If you're out of it going into September, ship out the guys like Goldschmidt. Make that trade to get a top prospect from another organization that might be playing alongside Walker and Wynn for the next 5 to 8 years. What's wrong with making that move? St. Louis is very sentimental as a sports town, and we love seeing guys stay here or come back here or whatever. But at the same time, from a dollars and cents perspective and a baseball strategy perspective, an organizational perspective, it might not be a bad idea to just go ahead and cut your bait now with that, with Goldie.
I was going to say now, he signed a 5-year, $130 million extension in 2019 after he was traded to the Cardinals. I know that, there's been a lot of discussions on if they would extend Goldschmidt. And look, he's a multi-time Gold Glove Award winner here in St. Louis. He's multi-time All-Star. He was a National League MVP. He was the most valuable player just 2 years ago.
But he's in his walk year, right? You said he's in his walk year?
He is in his year.
All those things make him so much valuable to a contender in September, like the Yankees or someone like Boston.
But see, that's where I think the Cardinals have the advantage because he's already still with the team. Right. He's more willing to stick with the team that he's been a huge part of, as opposed to a team that would be having to dish out. Because you're absolutely right. You look at all these. An MVP is worth a lot more than
That was just 2 years ago. We're 2 years removed from that. That's
right.
That's not that long ago.
The whole team had an off year last year.
If the late season, the later parts of stages of the season roll around, and the Cardinals are dead last place, and a contender comes around and throws out 2 of their top prospects, he's gone. If I'm I make the move. I mean, I just think that I think if you're in last place this year, you're at least a year or 2 away anyway. By the time you're ready to contend, he's not going to be the player he is even today. So
I look at this.
It's a smart move on the team's part. Like I said, it's not a great sentimental move at all. I mean, it would break a lot of people's hearts, but it's also not the first time that's happened. They've had to move on from players that were popular in St. Louis in the past.
I got a good example for you. So Jose Abreu, who he was entering his age 36 season not too long ago, last year actually, and the Astros signed him to a 3-year, $58 million deal. That's a fair enough deal for a guy of Abreu's caliber and for somebody that, at that age. Same with Goldschmidt. I think, you sign him either to a 2-year, $38 million deal or a 3-year, $50-something million deal with some added incentives. I think it's affordable. I think it shows how much he truly means to the management and the organization. And they could also just see if they could coerce Goldie to get a contract extension similar to the one Wainwright had, with a high incentive structure, but just a middle of the road annual value.
Yeah. And that's probably really the most realistic scenario of what'll happen.
Yeah, but I think that would be in the best interest of the entire Cardinals organization, because not saying none of the young guys on the team are leaders, but obviously you want guys like Arenado and Goldschmidt, just like you wanted guys like Pujols and Molina, and Wainwright, guys like them to stick around, those veteran leaders that have stuck through an organization and really dedicate themselves and learn from these guys. So I have you can put more faith in guys like Mason Wynn, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman when they're learning under the tutelage of Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. It's, you know, and it's not a knock on anybody. It's just kind of how how sports
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. No, I
You know,
agree. I mean, if it's my choice, I'm keeping Goldschmidt. But if it comes down to it, and you got to make that call, I'm saying they have to weigh that option.
yeah, I know, and I do get that. Now, another thing with the Cardinals, we talked about the ripple effect of issues from last year. And I know we had talked about this with the good doctor and Christopher Miles, and that is the slumping television ratings. So the home opener, which was broadcast on Bally Sports Midwest, drew the lowest viewing audience in about 20 years. And we all had our different opinions on it, but I want to start with you on this, Ryan. What do you think is the biggest reason for the big decrease in viewership? And viewership hasn't even been a massive increase at all. It's been very stagnant from home opener on Bally. What do you think the primary reason for that could be?
It's not available that many places. I've had to switch cable. I mean, not cable providers, but streaming services because they can't get a deal with YouTube TV. So after having YouTube TV for years, I had to switch over to a different service to, you know,
Right.
so basically you're accommodating them, not the other way around. And I think a lot of people, especially I'm in Southern Illinois, I'm about 20 minutes north of Carbondale. Down here, I think people have just given up watching the games. They listen to it on the radio or, whatever, or I guess stream it on, on whatever services that you can hear it on. But, there's a lot of people that they're not going to pay for the package to buy it, or they're not going to switch their cable provider or their internet provider, their streaming service to, get something like Fubo or one of the sites that actually carries it, because they don't carry all the programming that something like so it's almost like you're sacrificing what you want to see. Like in my situation, I lost channels that I want to see when I switched over to Fubo from YouTube. So it's almost like, but it is my job to cover the Cardinals, so I need to see the ball games every day. So
Right.
it's like, so that takes precedence over anything else. But at the same time, as a customer, I was more than happy with the service I had before. I think people are very just frustrated with the TV situation. I have been, since this whole thing went down, since Fox Sports Midwest became Bally Sports, it's just been a mess. And I think a lot of people they'll read about it online, or they'll listen to it on the radio if they really want to hear it, or they'll just check it in live time on their phone. There's not, for one, the world is evolving. We're not, nothing's appointment television for anyone anymore, and then on top of it, the Bally Sports situation has been an absolute utter mess, and it's turned a lot of people off that were normally loyal viewers.
I agree. I think the days of when you could just enjoy the game on KPLR 11 are well gone. You can't just, if you just have your own basic cable, if you have any old service, you can't just, like, we have YouTube TV here, for example, and they don't carry the Valley Sports networks.
I run the same problem here. So
People have, Prime Video,
Hulu,
DirecTV, Dish, Hulu, all these different services. Fubo seems to be one of the only ones that will carry it, but that's because it's primarily a sports streaming service.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. They rely on a lot of streaming, and I think beIN Sports might carry.
Yeah, but the thing of it is,
they don't have any regular program, any decent
we
regular.
live in a world where it's like, why would we pay for all these different streaming services, separately, when the point of us cutting the cable cord was to cut down on price, Well,
and my biggest thing too is, and I found this, I believe everybody is in the same boat I'm in. You have services you pay for that you might watch once or twice a month, probably. I mean, we have 4 or 5 things. I work so much. I have 2 jobs. My wife works. So we don't have time to really sit around the TV for hours at a time. So we don't even consume that much television. So you'd think, well, why would you buy all those services? Because you think you need them. And, then every month the bill comes and you just keep paying them.
Right. I look at, and definitely the reputation when you hear the word Bally Sport or the words Bally Sports, the reputation it has now is just so bad. I know a lot of people in many markets are not thrilled with Bally. They do miss Fox Sports. They
I
feel
do.
it was, they feel it was more convenient. It was more accessible. Um, there was something about the production that they just found more fondly about. Now here we are, and I don't know. It's there's. I will say the past year or so, I've listened to KMOX more than I have in multiple years. Like I've always listened to Cardinal games on KMOX, but I know there was a time where I started listening to them less, and now I'm back to really listening to them all the time because I can't really watch the Cardinal games
That's what I did last
as
year. I
much.
listened till things
So
got so bad it wasn't worth listening to. I was looking for something over here.
no,
But
you're good. Um, yeah, it's an absolute cluster, and
I thought I had a Fubo guide, our Fubo guide, that I had printed out that I could show you. But yeah, it is extremely sports heavy. I mean, I'm sure if the wife and kids went away for a weekend, and just left me at home and I had no work to do, I could probably consume a couple pizzas and maybe some steaks and spend all day in front of the television watching the stuff that's on there, because they do have some great sports coverage. I mean, it's a great service and it's a great price. It's just the idea of having to switch just to accommodate Valley. And I think when you were talking about their reputation, my feeling on them has been this the entire time. They wanted the content, but they weren't capable or prepared to distribute it.
right. So, and streaming subscribers, the amount has gone up. YouTube TV is almost at over 10 million subscribers. Last I checked, the numbers were around 8.5 million. And we already know Hulu and Prime and all those other streaming services are through the roof on viewers.
Yeah.
So yeah, watching Cardinals games, and this goes the same for Royals, Yankees,
Blues.
Mariner, anybody that has to have a Bally Sport affiliated situation. Um, so it's an absolute mess.
Well, my
And
my situation was just kind of what you said about I was supposed to be saving money by going to streaming. At one point, I considered just keeping my YouTube TV and buying Fubo alongside it, and I thought, now I'm paying $160 for a lot of the same stations. I might as well. That's every month. I'm doing that basically for the Cardinals games and the Blues games. I mean, that's pretty much it, because there's nothing else really I can get on there that I can't get with YouTube TV. Again, I just think the whole streaming situation is a mess, and that's contributed a lot to the loss in viewership.
yeah, I agree. And of course, some people do feel that the fact they lost 91 games last year does still leave a sour taste in people's mouths. I know that Tuesday the 9th, it was the fourth smallest crowd at a Busch Stadium 3 game. So in the current Busch Stadium, it was the third smallest crowd at 31,000 and some change. I know that. Meanwhile, last weekend, and we're about to, head to this. What was a crazy time in St. Louis? You had the Cardinals still drawing a great crowd. The Battlehawks drawing over 40,000. There between
That's
St.
crazy.
Louis, between St. Louis City SC, the Battlehawks, and the Cardinals on Saturday. Over 102,000 people were attending an event in downtown St. Louis.
And it's a
Like,
great sports city. I mean, that's the
yeah,
crazy thing about it, is there's not much of a downtown left anymore. I mean,
right,
there's not many attractions downtown. There's no residents, really much residents downtown or anything like that. But if there's a ball game, if there's a hockey game, if there's a soccer game, in any any sporting event, especially something like Cardinals opening day. I mean, I was not there, but I had friends sending me videos and pictures and everything else. And it's like I wrote the column, about there's nothing like opening day in St. Louis. I said it's like it is a holiday in St. Louis. It really is. And then to tie in just the absolute mania that the city has for the Battlehawks, which I think started out as like a middle finger to Stan Kroenke, and now it's turned into like genuine love of the team. And so,
Yeah, it's beyond hatred for Kroenke. It's
yeah,
literally we have our own fan base. We're embracing the team we have, the players, like, and I mean, the UFL has recognized the fact, just like the XFL did, about Battlehawks fandom is unlike any other fandom in the league. And, I think that it's something that definitely should be properly recognized.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy though to think about. That could have happened. I mean, it could have been 60,000 every week if the Rams would have put out a decent product and cared about anything to do with the presentation of the game. I mean, that was the worst place to see a football game.
Yeah, I will say that and there's still a lot of issues at the Dome. The turf is the biggest point of criticism, and I will say, I mean, it's fairly justified in the criticism. I know that following the conclusion of the UFL season, they will begin the process of installing a new turf field into the Dome at America Center, which is absolutely needed.
And it's crazy to think that if you really look at it, the Battlehawks are given. Obviously, the Dome hasn't gone completely dormant. It's still held many events in there. It's still had conventions, and I don't know if they've done motocross or sure monster trucks or something.
Yeah, they've done the monster trucks, they've done all that.
So I mean, it's not like it's a ghost town in that place without the team, but having the team there gives it just so much more of an identity, because for a long time it just seemed like it was a wasted investment. But while it was not, and I will say this, it was not a great atmosphere for an NFL game. For this level of football and to fill it up with that many fans is the perfect type of setting. It's the perfect kind of venue for a UFL team.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to
Folks, I
apologize.
want
I
to
have
say,
the world's worst cold tonight, Jeremy. So if you hear
no,
me sniffling, I'm sorry.
that's fine.
This
Allergies
crazy
are
weather. Yeah, this crazy weather.
weather's crazy. The allergies are crazy. Folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in so far to Roundabout Sports. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Carper, alongside Ryan K. Boman of Heavy.com and us here at I-70 Sports Media. Like I said, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you stream. We're on Facebook, X, YouTube. Roundabout Sports is also on Facebook. I want to talk about now, to really cap things off, the latest regarding Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. So, according to the Dallas Police Department has officially issued an arrest warrant for Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, and it's in connection with his involvement in a multiple vehicle crash on US Highway 75 in Dallas just a few weeks ago, if you want to be honest, in late March. Rice faces 8 charges in this case, 6 of collision involving a bodily injury, 1 count of collision involving serious bodily injury, and 1 count of aggravated assault. All the charges are felonies. Now, surprisingly enough, leaving the scene of the crime is not one of the ones involved. The thing of it is, I mean, there is definitely.
Jeremy, let me ask you something. How many people own a Lamborghini?
Not many.
So you leave the scene of a crime and you wrecked a Lamborghini, which I believe is what he was driving, if I remember the report. You're going to be a pretty easy guy to find, because there aren't that many people anywhere that have a registered Lamborghini in their name. Plus, they got the tags. I'm sure it has CC footage everywhere. Dumb move. My prediction is he won't get cut. He won't do any time for this, but he will pay massive fines and he will be facing a lot of really, really big lawsuits. He'll probably get the huge fine and 5-year probation thing that they give athletes. And probably lose his license, I would assume, for a while.
Yes.
I think they said he had a Lamborghini. So, I mean, any car like that, especially driving in a major city, you're going to draw so much attention to yourself anyway. It sounds to me like he was street racing or something and it got out of hand.
Well, and that's what happened. So basically, there was 6 people were split between the Lamborghini and the Corvette that were speeding on 75 northbound on March 30th. The luxury cars, one of them was a Corvette, the other was a Lamborghini, lost control and caused a crash that involved 6 vehicles.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I would doubt. They're not going to cut him. I wouldn't think the Chiefs would cut him for this, but I mean, you never know. But they've gone through their share of controversy in the past, all the way with Andy Reid's son, and there's been a lot of and obviously all the outside engagement with the Taylor Swift stuff and Mahomes' brother getting into trouble last year. I mean, they've had a lot of controversy. I think this just falls in with the fact that when teams have success for some reason, trouble seems to follow. That's usually what unravels things.
Yeah.
Not that I have anything against Taylor Swift or Patrick Mahomes or anybody else. It's just that it's gotten to be, you're starting to see a lot of the distractions creep in. They still won the Super Bowl this year, but you just wonder, how much of this is starting to kind of, I won't say go to their head, but, you enjoy the fruits of your success, and sometimes it gets to be in excess, and it sounds like, getting arrested and partying too much or crashing a Lamborghini, that kind of falls into that lifestyle. And it's that high of being on top is, I guess, the best way to say it.
Right. And I'm just like looking through all this, and all the occupants of the Lamborghini and Corvette fled the scene, leaving multiple victims behind. Nobody exchanged information or insurance. Nobody checked to make sure anyone was okay. The police also found out about they found marijuana in the car, as well as credit cards, check worth over $16,000 in diamonds, and believe it or not, a playbook for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kind of hard to run from that one, huh? It's kind of hard.
I think, it wasn't me. If anything, as soon as the one about the Chiefs, the playbook, it's like, well, then we definitely know it's somebody. So,
where did this happen? In Dallas?
This happened in Dallas. And
how much you want to bet the Cowboys got that playbook right now? How much you want to bet? Jerry Jones probably paid big money for that.
Jerry Jones is going to hold it for ransom.
That's right.
So, yeah, it just blows my mind.
If I made that much money, there's no way I'd be driving a car 160 miles an hour. There's just, I would Teflon my whole body for, I wouldn't risk anything if I was making that kind of money. But I mean, I guess easy come, easy go to a lot of these guys. And, especially when you get that kind of success early, the one thing you get the big contract and you might get an endorsement deal, but you don't get taught responsibility with it. And that's why you see a lot of the guys go broke or they end up in jail or, we've had guys in the NFL that were engaged in drug trafficking that were making multiple millions of dollars a year, which makes no sense, but it happens. It happens in the NBA. It happens in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. So here's the thing. What do you think the punishment's going to be for Rashee Rice when it's all said and done?
I think he'll pay a huge fine. He'll get a lot of probation. He'll lose his license, and the people that were injured are going to get a nice big settlement from him. But I don't think, and I do also believe he'll probably get suspended the first 4 games of the season by the league. Because once this, I would assume Roger Goodell's just waiting for the official, everything to happen. If he pleads guilty and found guilty of that, and it's proven everything, which we kind of already, I know it's still in the allegedly stage right now, but as you said, when you find the playbook, that's kind of like, the bloody glove at the OJ trial. You would think it's the lock, stock, and barrel for the case. But if it is proven and he pleads guilty, which I assume he will, to take the lighter punishment, I assume Goodell will probably hand down a 4 to 6 game suspension.
Well, yeah, because Rice put on Instagram on Wednesday, April 3rd last week that he was cooperating with the PD in Dallas. He says he takes full responsibility for his part. He'll continue to cooperate. Like he was involved, one way, shape, or form. He was involved in all this. It's just a matter now of what counts he's going to be guilty for, how everything's going to be tried out. And look, it's, what some people are saying, well, it's not like it's Henry Ruggs when he killed a guy or killed a woman and her dog. Okay, the thing of it is, it's not so much the fact that Rice didn't, it's the fact that he could have. When you're street racing down an interstate and you cause 6 vehicles to crash, yeah, you're damn lucky nobody died.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that in my younger days I didn't drive like an idiot sometimes, because I did, and I had a sports car when I was young and drove it way faster than I should have, and now I have nightmares about that, about all the times that something could have happened. You don't think about that when you're young, and I imagine when you have money, you have to think about it even less. But as you said, the consequences, it's better for him to get a really good punishment now to where this doesn't happen again, because otherwise, if it's just whatever, some little throwaway sentencing, and he doesn't face a long probationary process and have to take classes and things like that, you're going to have to put somebody like that through the paces so they know to never do that again. We've seen multiple people with multiple DUIs, 5, 6 DUIs, and they somehow still keep getting out on the road, somehow able to drive. And what happens? They continue the same pattern.
Right. No, I absolutely agree.
And I'm not saying I didn't say DUI in this situation because it doesn't sound like it, but
it doesn't sound like it was it just sounds more like the foul play, the stupidity.
Reckless driving. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, a DUI is stupid if you drive drunk, but there's different ways to be stupid.
Right. And in his case, if he wasn't drunk, then it's a really sadder situation because sober, he made that decision.
I was going to say, that is actually a good point on your end, because if you think about it, obviously being drunk impairs your thought processes and decision making. But if you're sober and you still decide to race on an interstate with a Corvette, with a Lamborghini that's only leased to you and everything, and it's like, so that's not good. It's not good. It's not a good look for Rice, for the Chiefs. And I know people are already going to be curious after Andy Reid's son was basically hit with a slap on the wrist after his incident,
Mahomes' brother.
And Jackson Mahomes and all the controversy surrounding Jackson Mahomes. So this is going to add fuel to the fire of all the fans and everybody out there of every other team. So we're going to see how all this plays out.
And it's been pretty obvious that they're getting a lot. They're cracking down a lot more. I don't think they want a situation like what we've seen in the NBA, where we have a gun incident or domestic violence or something every other week in the off season or whatever. And that's not a shot. There's plenty of guys in the NBA that are great people, but it just seems like that league is out of control. During like in the club, everything, I don't get it. And I don't understand why folks don't take security or hire drivers or things like that instead of trying to take on people and fight in nightclubs and stuff like that. But that's a story for another day. But in this case, I would say we've seen in the last couple of years, especially Goodell's never exactly been a light-handed when it comes to dealing with players. But we've seen like last year with all the guys suspended for gambling, that some of those guys barely even, bet that much money or, really did a lot. And they all got 6-game suspensions. Now, I like that because I don't want the players in the league gambling. I think there's already a little too much mix between gambling in the NFL as it is. But at the same time, it's an example of how Goodell is he's the biggest hammer to me in pro sports of the 4 major sports. He's the one guy that will drop the hammer on you if you
really. I mean,
I think Silver has just they Players League. They've taken.
I mean, I think about Manfred being a goofball of a commissioner, but at the same time, there are some pretty harsh sentences that get handed down in baseball.
Yeah, but he's disqualified for the way he's monkeyed around with the situation in Oakland. That's a joke. That
is to me not even as much a Manfred problem as it is the Oakland A's ownership problem.
Well, yeah, that guy's a clown too. But I don't see Manfred.
I think the whole thing in Oakland, and that's a whole nother show basically, is how bad that whole thing's been mismanaged. Speaking of relocations, I do want to make a quick tidbit before we go back to this. The Arizona Coyotes are looking more and more likely that they're going to be moving to Salt Lake City, Utah. So, and according to very own Christopher Miles, they will be having a probable team name contest. They would ask the fans. So the first thing I have to ask, I guess, is what would you name them?
In Utah, the Polygamists.
Oh, geez. I wish I could even have a joke, but I really don't when it comes to Salt Lake City or Utah when it comes to a team name. So, yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to Ryan, are you still there, buddy? I think you might have lost your signal. Well, we're going to take a quick second with Ryan. Like I said, folks, the Arizona Coyotes are looking to move to Salt Lake City. Meanwhile, as we were going with earlier, Rashee Rice is having plenty of issues with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas law enforcement, but he says he is fully cooperating. Also, I do want to say one more thing while we are waiting for Ryan to rejoin us. WrestleMania 40 was this past weekend, and I know the folks at Issues with Wrestling with Christopher Miles and Jared Shannon will be talking a lot more about WrestleMania 40. I just want to say, as a longtime wrestling fan, it was one of my absolute favorite, as a wrestling fan in general, one of my favorite shows. It helped reiterate why I loved wrestling so much. So, yeah, it meant a lot to me. I think it was great seeing John Cena and The Undertaker, for example. So, yeah, no, I really loved it. And right now, Ryan is still not, like I said, he's got some technical difficulties, and that's A-okay. The best thing, folks, you can find us on Facebook, on X, and on YouTube at Interstate 70 Sports Media. You can find us on Facebook for Roundabout Sports. Also have to give a quick early birthday shout out to my mom. This is the two of us with the Nature Boy Ric Flair a couple years ago. Quick birthday shout out to her. Her birthday is tomorrow, Thursday, April 11th. So I'm looking forward to celebrating that over the next few days. But with that, folks, we are going to wrap up here at Roundabout Sports. I do want to thank Ryan look who's popping back on. You back with us, buddy?
I lost my internet connection. I guess God struck me down for making a joke about Mormons. I'm sorry. I thought you cut me off
No, I thought that. Look, with this show, we're unfiltered. Although I guess apparently Divine Intervention has other plans.
No, but
So
seriously, I
this
was
is why I didn't have a joke about Utah. I was just about to start the close of the show, but then here you go,
no,
starting talking
I
about
wanted
the
to pop in
greatness.
because you did mention Utah, and I actually do got to run myself here pretty soon, but I wanted to pop back in so I didn't leave you hanging. But about Salt Lake City, I don't have an idea on the name for the team. Most of the really cool team names have been taken around all the 4 major sports. I'd look for something original, something that's not. You don't want another Cardinals, or doubling up on anything that somebody or something similar.
But I feel like you have to be extra. Like this is
Is there a
I
bird
mean,
for Utah? Does Utah have a state bird or something?
well, yeah, I mean, the vulture. No, this is the thing. The Utah State bird is the California gull. Now, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to be calling the hockey team the Salt Lake City Gulls. That sounds terrible. That sounds awful.
They called the team out in San Francisco the Seals for a long time. So
Yeah, but seals are awesome.
okay, how about Salt Lake City Seals? Even though there's no seals in, I don't think there's any in the
I
Salt
mean,
Lake.
we have the North Stars. I mean, we've had you had the Cleveland Barons for a couple years as well. You had the Atlanta Thrashers, and the team was god awful.
Salt Lake City Wanderers, because they wandered in.
Okay, I guess I'll have to ask it like this: or is it going to be called Salt Lake City, or is it going to be Utah?
I would say they probably go for the whole
It's not
state.
called Salt Lake City Jazz.
Right. I'd say they call them Utah, which I wanted to bring that up. One of the reasons I popped back in was actually to be serious. I really think, we've seen this emergence the last few years of Vegas becoming one of these towns that's going to eventually be a big 4 city, all 4 of the major teams there. I don't know about big 4, but Salt Lake is being very aggressive about luring a Major League Baseball expansion team. They actually they've made a bit of a play for the A's in case things don't work out in Las Vegas. I know they're either renovating or rebuilding the minor league park there to be more accommodating of Major League Baseball. I think Salt Lake City, we could see them have 3 major sports. If the Coyotes, you said is who's thinking about making the move, Arizona is.
Yes.
And so if they make the move there and Salt Lake lands a Major League Baseball team, either through relocation or expansion, all of a sudden they've got more franchises than St. Louis does. I mean, in terms of the 4 major sports.
Well, I was going to say, we got hockey, baseball, the UFL, and then MLS.
Right.
So,
but I mean,
but we don't have an NBA team and we don't got an NFL team.
And you'd probably be more likely to have an NBA team before you have an NFL team ever.
Yeah, but I'd be fine with that. And I think a lot of people would be too. Whether you play at Chaffetz or get a brand new arena would be a different story. I'd probably just play at Chaffetz and hope for the best. But nevertheless, or hell, play at the Family Arena.
Yeah, St. Charles. And that actually venue, whenever I've been out there, when it was new, was a pretty nice.
Family Arena is a very nice arena. I go there for we have great connections with the Ambush. Great arena, great facility. So, but yes, remains to be seen about that. To summarize the past 10 minutes of the show, folks, we're going to be honest. The Oakland A's fans got screwed. Rob Manfred sucks as a baseball commissioner. Adam Silver apparently is the most down to punish commissioner in sports. Utah's getting a hockey team and maybe one day an MLB team. And I'm going to be honest, I still say bring back the Montreal Expos one way or another.
I'm for that. And you know what? Here's another
city. Get the Rays. I know Tampa fan, my Tampa demographic, I guess, is going to tune out.
Another city making the move in expansion for either NFL or Major League Baseball. San Antonio, Texas as well.
I was going to say, well, the NFL is already in Nashville, but I was going to say for baseball, hey, when they, you know what? Here, I got it. This is the perfect way to end the show. You want to talk about bringing the Expos back? How about we just bring the Montreal Royals back? They're going to move anyway, apparently.
I mean, the way it sounds, there's 2 or 3 teams up for grabs right now. The White Sox might, they've talked about leaving. I I would love to see, I would love to see a team back in Montreal again. But if they do, you got to call them the Expos. Come on. I mean, that was a great.
It has to be. It's not like the Oilers in the NFL where they retired the name so nobody can use it, which I do think is actually pretty cool. They did that as a sign of respect. But I will say this one final thing. You talked about Vegas being a viable sports city. I think it's on the rise. I don't mind the fact that they're becoming a sports city. I mind the fact that how they became it.
Yeah.
I feel for the fans of Oakland because, look, when they were in Oakland, the Oakland Raiders had some of the most passionate sports fans you could ever imagine. And look, team got ripped right through them, like ripped right away from them. The A's, same thing. The Warriors, Golden State Warriors, when they were closer, same thing. Like Oakland will have no professional sports teams by the end of this decade. Think
Yeah, which
about
is
that.
amazing to think of, with it being such a major city, and especially in California, where it seems like every league wants to load up, with 5 or 6 teams in the state of California, which is understandable because of the revenue and the television and everything else that you've got out there. But yeah, for the idea of Oakland, but like you said, they lost the Raiders twice. Just like here, we lost 2 teams, in St. Louis.
We lost 2 NFL teams.
They've been kind of treated sort of like the poor sick cousin in sports. I mean, St. Louis hasn't had it that bad. We'll always have the Cardinals. We'll more than likely, barring some major catastrophe, always have the Blues. Even though we've come close to losing them a couple times. You'd hope that maybe another third, like an NBA type franchise would come in here. But, overall, the St. Louis as a city's lost a lot of major franchises. We used to have the Hawks, in the NBA a long time ago. They left too, so it's like.
And you know what? The Atlanta Hawks haven't won a damn thing since.
That's right.
St. Louis, the last time the Hawks have won a championship was when they were in St. Louis and against the Boston Celtics. And
sorry, Dominique. Sorry, Dominique.
I'll take it every day of the week. All right, folks, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I want to first thank Ryan Boman for joining us. You can find his work on I-70 Sports Media as well as on heavy.com. He is also all over social media, so definitely be sure to check out his work. So you also can find us here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you stream. Also, as always, I want to put up the NAMI helpline at the end of the show. And that is 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. That is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle. Also, as of always, we close the show by putting up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone in this world. There's always somebody out there who loves you and cares about you and wants what's absolute best for you, because that's what you deserve. We all go through struggles every day, and, we got the road through struggles should not be traveled alone. You're just a phone call, a text message away, or you could be the listening ears for somebody else. So I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week on Roundabout Sports. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Karp, and remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night.